The 11th round of the 2003 Champ Car season took place in the land of moose and not much else, Canada. We're racing in Vancouver this time around, a town which, according to the first result on Google when looking up what Vancouver is known for, has Queen Elizabeth Park, a bunch of trees inside a fence named after a dead lizard. Entering the weekend, Paul Tracy was on a roll after the dominant win he had in Toronto. However, the Vancouver weekend wasn't very smooth. Tracy grabbed the provisional pole on Friday qualifying, but had that revoked after he was accused by Bruno Junqueira and Alex Agliani of blocking. Tracy then crashed in Saturday morning practice, before retaking the pole position later that day. Tracy was still a bit irked though, delivering this hilarious moment to the media.
Well, first off, there's an incurable deadly disease going up and down the pit lane from Tagliani's pit and Junkie. It's called wineritis, so I don't want to catch it. That's why I have this mask on.
There are some other storylines of note. The fantastic qualifying performance for Roberto Moreno was one of them, as a 2001 Vancouver winner would start this race in third. Speaking of some other Brazilians, the Dale Coyne shuffle continued as Walter Salles was back in the number 19 car, taking it back from Alex Sparafico, who replaced him in Toronto. There's another return, as for the first time since Milwaukee, Speed Channel was back. It's nice to finally have a pre-race show again, because I could actually write this part of the video while watching the broadcast. And right as I wrote the praises for the Speed Channel coverage, they had the worst ever episode of MTV Cribs with Darren Manning. Just look at that refrigerator. Oh. Championship rivals Paul Tracy and Bruno Junqueira would be on the front row. Jeff Boss was meant to be your 19th and last place starter, but he crashed during the pace laps. Nobody felt worse about this than his teammate Walter Salles, who crashed as well shortly thereafter. Before the race even started, both Dale Coyne cars would be at the race. With Salles' car on the side of the road, the field would start the race under yellow, but after a few laps we'd finally get the green flag. With a big jump, it was Bruno Junqueira taking the lead, but almost immediately chaos broke out. First it was Sebastian Bourdais hitting Roberto Moreno in turn 1, sending the Brazilian into the outside wall. Then just a few corners later there's another crash involving Mario Dominguez, Thiago Monteiro, and Oriol Servia. Servia was hit by Monteiro, who slowed down as a result and was then rear-ended by Dominguez. Moreno would be out of the race after the turn 1 crash, while Oriol Servia was out of the race with broken right rear suspension. Monteiro and Dominguez would pick up damage but stay in the race, albeit multiple laps down. We'd just barely pick up the restart on lap 8 while Speed Channel was busy showing their weekly Bridgestone piece with Calvin Fish. I mean, I get it, the tires are important in racing, but you don't have to remind us every single week. The restart was clean, as a front duo of Bruno Junqueira and Paul Tracy began to pull away. But as they pulled away, there was a lot of discussion going on about the start. The decision came that Bruno Junqueira jumped the start and had to let Tracy by. The anger for this incident didn't fall on Junqueira, but rather fell down the starter for this, as despite it being a pretty clear jump for Junqueira, they waved the green flag anyways. It was just weird and confusing, but the decision was made and the penalty had to be served. That would unfold on lap 24, and it was pretty much the end for Junqueira. The pit stops came shortly after this, where Tracy got out clean, while Junqueira stalled it. But the saving grace for Junqueira came just a couple laps later. It was Alex Agliani and Thiago Monteiro in turn 12, with both cars destroyed and the track littered with debris. Monteiro went for a pointless dive on Tagliani, pitching tags up on 2 wheels, sending him into the wall and taking the both of them out of the race. Monteiro was many laps down at the time too, making this crash even more unnecessary. The restart came on lap 37 with Tracy in the lead and teammate Carpentier in second. The action on this restart was further towards the back of the pack, as Tracy began to grow his lead. Things cooled off for a while after this stint, with not much happening until the next round of pit stops. Tracy led by about 15 seconds when he pulled into the pits on lap 60, exiting the pits and continuing his race without incident. The same couldn't be said about his teammate. Carpentier would be taken out of the race after Mario Dominguez went for a dive bomb and just cleaned out Carpentier. It was a move met with frustration, with no one being more upset than Scott Pruitt.
Yeah, I doubt if he would have made it in. He was up the inside, got in too deep, trying to make a bold move. Dumbass move.
Sebastian Bourdais was in the lead at this stage, for a handful of laps that is. Then when he came in, it gave the lead back to Tracy. He was putting another clinic on the field, lapping up to Adrian Fernandez in 6th. Speaking of Fernandez, he was having engine issues. This came to a climax on lap 74, as he was black flagged for spraying oil on track. Despite the commentary crew acting like the track had been turned into a slip and slide, it was just pure over-exaggeration. The final round of pit stops came and went in the last 10 laps, with Tracy getting out clean. Paul Tracy would take the checkered flag and score the victory in the 2003 Molson Indy Vancouver, winning by about 18 seconds. Bruno Junqueira would finish in second, and Sebastian Bourdais would come home in third. Look, that really wasn't a good race, but compared to the snoozer that was Toronto, it was alright. Besides a few hiccups, the broadcast was alright too. Really, besides that, I don't have much else to say. Next up is Road America, and with it comes a slight issue that I'll have to discuss next week. But until then, thank you all for watching, and have a great afternoon.